Hey, it's Jesse Cervantes with the Coffee Politic. Here's a quick shot of political caffeine. Well, I went today to the town hall down in Lower Manhattan to discuss the primary problems, and there were some congressional members there. The lead person was Nydia Velasquez, who represents in the United States Congress the 7th District of New York, which includes the place where the massive voter purging happened. Also there was Representative Hakeem Jeffries, who basically covers the rest of Brooklyn. That's who he represents. So here's his district out here. And also Grace Meng, who represents a little bit of Brooklyn. It looks primarily like she covers Queens. And we thank them for coming out. It was really nice of them to put this together. Nydia was the one who really spearheaded the whole thing. Among others, of course, was Mike Ryan, Helm, leader of the Board of Elections, to testify. And I was actually really pleased to be able to do a live stream of some of it. So you can see here's about a 15-minute live stream still available on the Coffee Politic, and a little bit more here. And more on that in a second. So, well, what happened? To tell you the truth, when I walked out of there, or when it ended, I just felt like it was a total waste. This thing was advertised as a town hall. However, why did this thing happen then? Well, I was thinking about it later, and it appears to me, if I had to guess, and I have to guess, if you look right here in their main summary, down here towards the bottom, the Supreme Court struck down sections of the Voting Rights Act in 2013 in the case of Shelby County versus Holder. What this meeting was about, what they really needed, and what all the line of questioning was about that voter purge that happened in Brooklyn. Not that it was fraud, not that, it was gross incompetence. Was that because the Voting Rights Act was stripped? If the Voting Rights Act was still in place, would that have happened? Of course, Michael Ryan said, well, it would have happened anyway, because I guess that's his job, to make sure that voting rights are not enacted and they can do whatever they want. But the people that were there from the Brennan Center and all the advocates said, yes, if the Voting Rights Act was still in place, it would not have happened. Well, that's what they needed to hear. These Congress people needed to go back to Washington, D.C. and be able to say, we had a hearing in New York. These experts, ideally Michael Ryan among them, would have said, yes, if the Voting Rights Act were in place, this purge would not have happened. Of course, he did not say that. The other people did, and maybe that's enough. What these people, and I'm talking about our 3 representatives in New York, want to do is to go back to Congress and say, we need to have the voting rights placed back in, and here's why these people would not have been purged. Well, why did Mike say it didn't matter whether the voting rights? His claim is that it was just an overzealous employee. No excuse for it, but it was just an overzealous employee, and, what do you got to do? He claims that this overzealous employee was just trying to do their job overzealously because he claims that in 2012, whenever the last election was, that the New York Board of Elections, he didn't offer any actual evidence, he just says this, was under a little bit of scrutiny for not having done enough purging. So why do people get purged? Well, people need to get purged, according to Mike Ryan, because if they do not vote in 2 consecutive elections, and if they've been mailed to and the letter gets returned with a return to sender and there's no forwarding address. So if there's no forwarding address for a person and they haven't voted in 2 elections, they get taken off the registry. That does kind of make sense. I mean, a lot of people move in and out of New York, and, things happen. Then, so, okay, that's reasonable. So this employee just went in and just purged, 100,000 on one day, 117,000 on one day, and another 4,000 or so on another day. And, no excuse, Mike says, but had nothing to do. Well, the argument of the gentlemen and ladies men and women from the Brennan Center and other people for election justice say that because of the rules that were in place with the Voting Rights Act, that couldn't have happened because in order to do something like that is irregular and is actually illegal, they would have had to have it cleared by the government. They would have had to go to Washington, D.C. and say, this is the law, this is the thing we want to do, and so in order to do that, we need your approval. And of course it wouldn't have been approved, so it wouldn't happen. And furthermore, they say, of the election rights advocates, it wouldn't even gone that far, because the minute someone thought that if I do this, I have to go to Washington, D.C. and get it cleared, it wouldn't even go past that. It's a deterrent in the sense of they can't actually do it at all without getting approval from the United States government. And before that even happens, they have to know in their head, this is going to work or it's not going to work. So, clearly this would not work. We can't do this, and it wouldn't not have happened. So, long and short of it, was this a useful meeting? In my opinion, from a bureaucratic sense, maybe, hopefully, Nadia, Hakeem, and Grace can go back to Washington and say, hey, we had this meeting. We were told that having the Voting Rights Act taken away and stripped has been a major problem in New York City specifically. It was the cause in some manner, or could have been prevented in some manner, that purge of 126,000 people. And and that's really all they wanted to do and all they needed to be able to do. As far as it being a town hall, it was not a town hall. People were not really encouraged or asked to speak. Well, I'm Jesse Cervantes, giving you an update on what happened today in the town hall, discussing New York primary problems with Brooklyn congressional members. May 20th, 2016. Thanks for tuning in. And hey, wake up.